Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. In today's video, we're putting together a 1 1/4 ounce 16 gauge turkey load. Now, the payload on this is just 1 1/4 ounces, so it's best to stick with 30 yards and in for this load. And find what choke works best for you. If not, just use a fixed full or extra full. But if your gun takes chokes, you might want to go something tighter than 620, let's call it that. Basically what I meant was use a choke around the 620 to 610 area. That should do pretty well with this load inside of 30 yards. The velocity on this load will be about 1250 FPS, or at least we've chronographed it at 1250 FPS multiple times out of a 28 or 30 inch barrel. Your gun may have a bit shorter barrel than that, but most of ours are either 28 or 30. The reason we're loading this a little bit hotter than, not hotter, but higher velocity than most standard turkey loads is because we're using number 6 shot. That is the smallest size that I would recommend turkey hunting with, although Winchester does offer 7.5 shot in a 410 as a turkey load. But that'll get the job done in 20 yards, but 6 shot is the smallest I recommend. The extra bit of velocity will allow these to have a little bit more energy downrange. Just something to think about. This also is nickel plated shot, which is harder than copper plated or unplated lead shot, and it is made of high antimony lead, so it's pretty hard stuff. Nickel plating on top of that just makes it even harder. Specifically, this is Ballistic Products nickel plated number 6. I'm a huge fan of it. This stuff tends to pattern really well. Because of the hard lead and nickel plating, the shot doesn't deform so bad, which does help keep the pattern together. The components I'm using are a Federal Hall once fired, a Shadat CX2000 primer, long shot powder 22, a CSD 16 wad. These come unslit. We'll have to slit it ourselves, but that's no issue. Pretty easy to do. 1/8 inch 20 gauge felt wad. If you're not using a Mylar wrap, you need a 1/4 inch felt wad. The Mylar wrap will help tighten up patterns. It'll help with flyers, but you do lose a little bit of capacity using the Mylar wrap. Once again, 1 1/4 ounces of Ballistic Products number 6 nickel plated lead. That is 547 grains. And lastly, Ballistic Products buffer. This is the ITX. It has been rebranded to BSB. It is my favorite buffer, but you guys can use any buffer you want. To start this off, we need our powder charge. Now, again, the CSD 16 wads come unslit as far as I know. If I'm wrong, correct me. But Gary Caskey's 4-pedal adjustable 10 gauge wad trimmer. Yes, this is 10 gauge, but it also works for 12 and 16. It does not work for 20 gauge, sadly, but it does work for the other 3. Just line it up, push it down. That's all you got to do. Just like that. We have a 4-pedal. See, 4 pedals. And 3/4 cut on that wad. Actually, this is closer to half, but half is fine too. Get that down inside your hole. Gary's wad nudger, push that down. I call it a wad tamper, but if you want any of Gary's tools, facebook.com/gary.d.caskey, CASKEY. Gary makes really good tools. Next, we need our 1/8 inch 20 gauge felt wad. Again, if you're not using a Mylar wrap or don't have any, you need 1/4 inch of the felt wad, or cork or fiber, whatever you have as a filler wad. And ideally, you want to use something that will give you a little bit of cushion. I wouldn't use a nitro card in here. If you do, 28 gauge, that's the size you need. But yeah, I would not use a nitro card in the steel shot wad or non-tox wad. I would use something with a little bit of cushion like felt or cork or fiber to prevent so much setback with the pellets, prevent them from deforming so bad. But if you don't have any of those, a nitro card will work just fine. The cushion style wads with cushioning, will help to reduce pressure spikes and again pellet deformation. Ballistic Products My Slim Mylar wrap. These are for small bores, and all you got to do is roll it up, if I can get it, just like this, and set it down inside your hull, inside your wad. You can't see it, but it is in there. The nickel-plated number 6 shot, again, 1 1/4 ounces or 547 grains, and that is a full 1 1/4 ounce payload. I'm not downloading it to make up for buffer. With the buffer, it'll be a 1.265 ounce load, so barely just a fuzz more than 1 1/4. And for the buffer, I'm using the Lee 2.2 CC Dipper, 1 full scoop. And by the way, all of that shot is inside the wad. 1 level scoop of a Lee 2.2 CC Dipper of Ballistic Products buffer, and tamp that into place. I did have a vibrating toothbrush to help with this, but I have lost it, so I've just gone back to tamping it in. Once you have the buffers settled with the top row of pellets, you need a paper thin overshot card, probably 10,000th. Set that right on top, and we are ready to fold crimp this. Now, sometimes these Federal hulls, they don't want to crimp perfect, but that's fine. If it comes out weird, I have a Guide BN2 to fix it, and also put a taper on it. Yeah, these Federals sometimes just don't want to cooperate with the crimp. The pre-crimp looks fine and all that, but once you final crimp it, sometimes these Federal hulls will crimp a little bit sideways. The middle of the crimp right here will end up a little bit lopsided, and you end up with a slightly lopsided hull. I don't know why these do that, but they do. I'm going to get a little bit more pre-crimp on it. That looks better. And final crimp. This one came out okay. Here's what we ended up with for a crimp. It looks okay. We do not have a pinhole. However, I did speak too soon. If you guys can see this, the shell is lopsided just a little bit. It is not even, but that's okay. I do have a Guide BN2 to take care of that. But if you look closely, we do actually have a little bit of a taper on there, which is pretty cool. I'll hit this with a guide off camera, and here's what it looks like right now. And check this out. And as you can see, we have a bit of a better taper on there. And here's what the crimp looks like now. It is deeper set, looks almost factory. The Guide BN2 works wonders. I gotta say, guys, I really like putting together turkey loads. They are a lot of fun. It's more work than putting together buckshot or birdshot or even slugs. A little bit more work involved, but it is fun. It's therapy for me. 1 1/4 ounces is not a particularly heavy load for 16 gauge. With modern powders, you can take it up to 1 5/8 with lead. 1 5/8 ounces it's about the limit with lead shot. Although I've done 1 3/4 ounces with number 4 buck, and that seems to work pretty well. But 1 1/4 ounces is the old 16 gauge Magnum load. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month, and you guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram, Rumble, and now merch store will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one. And don't mind that voice crack that happened a second ago.